Two. What's going on, YouTube? Today I bring you, although a little late, my playoff and award predictions for this postseason. But I am getting this out right before the postseason has started, though. Um, and also just to get the most potentially accurate results. I'm probably not going to do weekly predictions. If I am, I didn't want to do like a separate video for wildcard picks, so this would also count as my wildcard picks video. But we're also going to go over my award predictions as well as the runner-ups and what the draft order would look like if this all played out as such. Obviously, the first 18 picks already solidified, though. And without further ado, let's move on to the playoffs. And starting off, we have some interesting matchups. Titans and Packers, obviously, with the bye. But we have the Chiefs and the Steelers. Definitely a good game there in Kansas City, despite the Steelers probably being the weakest team in the playoffs to me. Bills and Patriots, obviously, the divisional matchup, their third time this year. We'll see, if the Patriots can pull this one off in Buffalo. Bengals and Raiders, two teams that I don't think many people expected to be in the playoffs facing off here. Both teams been very hot the last few weeks, so we'll see. But, Cincinnati obviously at home does help. And then over in the NFC, Buccaneers, Eagles. Eagles are a sneaky team. They have, not played the best teams, but they've been playing good, and the Buccaneers not been playing so good. They almost lost to the Jets, and the Eagles are a better team than the Jets. They've been pretty good this year. We have the Cowboys and 49ers, which, although it might seem like the Cowboys might be pretty favorable, you do got to think that Mike McCarthy, this is his first year in the playoffs with the Cowboys, and in the past has showed not to be the best playoff coach, but also the fact that the 49ers actually match up really well with the Cowboys, so that's quite the interesting game. And then last but not least, maybe the best game on the wild card round, we have the Rams and the Cardinals with, again, the divisional matchup there, this time in the NFC West, where, it's in LA, but the Cardinals, they've already beat the Rams in LA this year. Both teams ended the season pretty hot for the most part. Rams struggled a little bit, but either way, a great game. So from those wild card matchups, moving on. First off, I have the Chiefs beating the Steelers. I think that's just, it's an easier game. It's probably the easiest game, I'd say, of this entire, into the entire wild card round. The Chiefs might be the best team in the NFL right now, and the Steelers, like I said, might be the worst team in the playoffs. They really did sneak in there. They needed the Colts to lose to the Jaguars, and they needed Brandon Staley to call one of the dumbest timeouts maybe ever in order to even sneak into the playoffs. Admittedly, they just shouldn't be there. They shouldn't be there. Either the Colts should have won or that game should have ended in a tie. It didn't, so they're here. That doesn't mean that they're going to beat the Chiefs. They can make it a competitive game, sure. The Steelers are always a competitive team, but at the same time, they started off 11-0 last year and lost to the Browns in the wild card pretty badly. I think the Chiefs are a much better team than the Browns last year, and so I just don't see the Steelers pulling off a win here, though, in Kansas City. Patriots losing to the Bills, I just don't think that it's going to be the same way. They're just not going to be able to do the same thing, especially not run every single play. The Bills defense has definitely improved since that game. It's kind of weird because, the Bills were on their worst streak of the season at that time, and since then they've been a completely different team. And with the Patriots, they were on their high point at that time, and they've been a little bit colder, near the end of the season. So you wonder, also just playing in Buffalo, the weather, obviously, part of it. The Patriots are used to cold weather, but it's still not, Gillette Stadium. If it's still called Gillette Stadium, I'm actually not sure, but I do have the Bills pulling this one out, though. And then the Bengals over the Raiders. It's a really close game. This should be a very good game. Honestly, could be the game of the week. But in Cincinnati, the Bengals have just been so hot to end the season. Ja'Marr Chase went off. Joe Burrow went off. The defense looked so great. While at the same time, the Raiders really squeaked out a win there against the Chargers. I do think the Bengals are a better team than the Chargers right now. The Raiders have also not proven to be the most consistent team in the NFL this year. So I think at the end of the day, I'm going to have to go Bengals. I could definitely see the Raiders winning this game. I could also see the Patriots winning, I don't see the Steelers winning either way. But, I could see the Raiders winning this one. I just don't think they do, though. I'm going to take the home games here. And I'm also going to take the home games in the NFC as well. Buccaneers over, Philadelphia. I think there's a legitimate chance that Philadelphia can win this game. I think they're going to make it a lot closer than maybe people think. They match up well, and they are a competitive team under Sirianni. But at the end of the day, it's their first playoff game versus the defending champs. I just don't see Philly pulling off a win here in their first game. But the Buccaneers moving on could certainly be Philadelphia. I'm going to take Tampa Bay in this one. And then moving on to the Cowboys, Niners, I did say, the Niners match up well with them, right? Like, they've got a lot of good talent on there. Especially their defense was really heating up there at the end of the year. Right, that's great. The 49ers have a lot of inexperience on offense, whether it's Jimmy G or Trey Lance starting. Jimmy G was really good that year they went to the Super Bowl, but besides that, he's just been underwhelming. Trey Lance, I don't think is going to be able to lead you past the Cowboys. And, with Dallas, I mean, they've truly had one of the best offenses and one of the best defenses this year. So it's just kind of hard. They've been inconsistent and injured. That's mainly what it's been for Dallas, so and not really injured. It's just been more the inconsistent part. But I think in a game like this, maybe Mike McCarthy's play calling screws them over, but I have the Cowboys winning this one. And then the Rams over the Cardinals. Again, similar to the Bengals Raiders, I could certainly see the Cardinals winning this game. It's just that in LA, I think with the Rams, they're a team that's just going to serve a bit better come playoff time than the Cardinals, as long as everything's going well, right? As long as Matt Stafford's not having some horrible game, they should win this game. Again, can certainly see the Cardinals winning it. I'm going to take the Rams. So then moving on to our divisional matchups, we have the Titans and the Bengals, and that's a tough game because you have two very hot teams there. The Titans looked really good there at the end of the season. They didn't even have Derrick Henry, so with a fresh Derrick Henry, a week of rest, and you're playing at this point maybe the worst team left in the playoffs, which obviously if you're in the divisional round, it's a bunch of good teams, but maybe the worst team left in the playoffs at this point. With the Titans, it's kind of tough, because that's just a very good hot team, but at the same time, the Bengals also a very good hot team, so that'd be a great matchup. Chiefs and Bills, rematch of the AFC Championship last year in the divisional round. Obviously going to be a very good game. Teams are pretty much the same. Chiefs with home field advantage. That'd be awesome to see. Packers-Rams. Packers also getting that week of rest. David Bakhtiari looked really great in his return. And they're also getting, Zadarius Smith and Jair Alexander back, which is really important because the big thing coming into this year is just the fact that the Packers defense lets that team down every single year. It's why they've just never gotten back to the Super Bowl. And now that you finally seem to have something, especially if you get Zadarius and Jair back, which it seems like they're practicing this week, so especially if you get that extra week of rest, that's great. It really depends on how do they come back and play for you. I mean, we know the offense is going to be great, right? Rodgers and Adams, they're going to be great for that offense. It's really up to the defense, and versus a team like the Rams who, as long as Stafford's playing good, they have one of the best offenses and one of the best defenses. You got to be firing on all cylinders to win that game, so it's really up to that defense. And then moving on to the Buccaneers and Cowboys, maybe the game of the week, a rematch of week one, the season opener. The Buccaneers barely pulled that game out, and I think the Cowboys are a better team right now than they were, and I think the Buccaneers are pretty easily a worse team than they were. The Cowboys match up very favorably with them, and I'm a little concerned because I think the Buccaneers are just simply outmatched at a lot of parts in that game. But will they win it, though? Let's see. So moving on to the championship games, I got the Titans over the Bengals. It's just when you have two really good hot teams like that, it kind of does just come down to individual matchups as well as, who's hotter out of two hot teams. And sure, the Bengals, they've been on fire, right? Both sides of the ball, especially the offense. But at the same time, the Titans have been great. But like I said, they haven't even had Derrick Henry, who before he got hurt this year was just an absolute monster. And I just feel like it's going to just return. I feel like we're going to see King Henry return as soon as he comes back to play in the divisional round. And with that, maybe the Bengals don't know what to do with that. And at the end of the day, I just have the Titans pulling that one off. Bengals could certainly win it. They're a very good hot team right now. I just think the Titans are a bit better. I have the Chiefs over the Bills. Same result as the AFC Championship last year. I just think that the Chiefs are the better team. When it comes to both teams, it's kind of tough because obviously the Bills have a great offense and a really good defense. But at the same time, I just think the Chiefs' offense is just a bit more consistent, honestly. That's kind of what it comes down to, is because that Bills offense truly does have some weird, inconsistent games. And between the defenses, the weird thing is that, like, on paper, the Bills defense is much better, but not only do they not have Tre'Davious White, but the Chiefs defense always seems to get really, really good in the playoffs. And so when you then move to a team that not only do you have this deadly offense, but you have a defense that always gets better in the playoffs, I just got to take that over the Bills, especially in Kansas City. So, it's a lot of home wins, but I'm just predicting that that happens just because, I mean, obviously home field advantage is huge, but if you have the home field advantage, most times you're the better team. So I am going to take the Chiefs in this one to move on to their fourth straight AFC championship. I have the Packers over the Rams, which pretty much means that I think that when Jair and Za'Darius come back, they're going to be playing at a high level. And, the fact that the Packers still ended up as the number one seed, despite not having guys like Bakhtiari, Za'Darius, Jair for the entire season, pretty much, it's really scary to think about what that team could be with those guys playing at full strength. And I'm predicting them to come back and play really, really good. And so you take a team that's already been the best team in football this year, arguably, and give them three more superstars, especially if they're playing at a high level. The Rams might be a good team, but the Packers just look even better. If they do come back and they do stink, I think the Rams win that game, because that's just kind of what happens to the Packers. Is maybe their offense is doing great, but it seems like that offense always has one kind of not great game, and it's just not enough because their defense is so horrible. So, maybe it's not that year for the Packers. So I got them winning over the Rams. And then I have this would be the first home upset game with the Cowboys over the Buccaneers. Like I said, I just think that they match up really favorably here. When it comes to the two offenses, I'd rather have the Cowboys offense right now. And when it comes to the two defenses, I'd really rather have the Cowboys defense right now. Maybe they get screwed over again. Mike McCarthy, he's shown that he's not a good coach, especially in the clutch and especially in the playoffs. Is it different for the Cowboys? Who knows? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But not only do I like the storyline, obviously, of Mike McCarthy seeing his former team and stuff in the championship, but I just think the Cowboys outmatch the Buccaneers here. I just don't think they get it done. Tom Brady, he threw 3 interceptions in the last the championship game last year, still won, because his defense was such an elite defense last year, and they're just not that same defense this year. So I don't think the Buccaneers even make it back to the championship this year. I think Cowboys get them in the divisional. That's the thing, is Cowboys always choke in the divisional, but I think this is that year that they finally get past it, similar to the Packers. So now moving on to our championships, we have the Chiefs in Tennessee. That's a tough game, because the Titans, obviously, at this point, really, really hot. And now you have a Derrick Henry that's just back to his old form. That's tough to stop. Whereas with the Chiefs, I mean, like I said, come playoff time, their defense gets really good, especially their run defense, which is important, but also their offense. We know it's deadly, and it can get really deadly when they need it to. So that's tough. But either way, it's a great matchup. But we have the Chiefs in Tennessee this time rather than in Kansas City, so that's obviously something to think about too. And then we have the Packers with the Cowboys, and great storyline here of Mike McCarthy versus his old team. And you think, because like I said, it seems like every year the Packers, it's like the championship game where, Rodgers and that offense has a decent game, and because their defense is just so bad that it screws them over and they can never get to the Super Bowl. But if they're at this point where they beat the Rams, right, that means that Jair and Za'Darius came back and they're playing great. So in this case scenario, the Packers, even if they do have a meh offensive game again, at least their defense is going for them. So that's really important versus a very good team like the Cowboys. So 2 fantastic championship games here. But at the end of the day, for the Super Bowl, I'm going to have the Chiefs and Packers. This is a lot of people's picks, but I think it's a pick that makes sense. So with the AFC Championship, I'm going to take the Chiefs over the Titans. I would love to see the Titans go to the Super Bowl. I'd love to see King Henry get that chance to get a ring. I just think the Chiefs, they're just a bit more experienced in this category. Like, yeah, the Titans, obviously, they've been in the playoffs the last 2-3 years, but the Chiefs, every time they've seen them, have beat them. I mean, the Chiefs have gone to 2 straight Super Bowls for a reason. And although the Titans at this point would be a very hot, good team, the Chiefs are also one of those teams where they've actually been able to slow down Derrick Henry in the playoffs. And especially if this is only his second game back, there's definitely a possibility that, they're able to slow him down somewhat just because it'd be, kind of almost like that start of the season again for him where, he always starts out maybe like a little bit slow by his standards, but then he gets going. So maybe he experiences a bit of that. Beyond that, the Titans defense, they've been pretty good this year, but more in statistical categories and just in terms of like they're able to keep a good offense at bay, at least enough for their team to get wins. The Chiefs offense comes alive in the playoffs, and I think it's just going to be too much for the Titans to handle. Add on to the fact that the Chiefs defense can absolutely slow down Derrick Henry, which at that point really slows down your entire offense. I'm going to take the Chiefs to pull it out in a close, good game. And then also with the NFC Championship, I got the Packers finally getting over that hump. And I know people have had this prediction for a couple years now, and it's especially popular this year for the Packers to finally get over that hump. But, when you look at the competition in the NFC this year, I mean, to the Packers, the Eagles, Niners, just really simply not that much of competition, right? Cardinals, I mean, they're out after the wild card. Rams, I mean, if they're good enough to beat the Rams, they're certainly good enough to beat the Cowboys. Because if you're at a point where your offense is playing good ball as with your defense, you have maybe the best team in the NFL. The Cowboys, on the other hand, it's their first year in the playoffs in a couple, 3 years. Matt LaFleur versus Mike McCarthy as a coach, I'm taking Matt LaFleur. And I just think overall, I think the Packers just have a better, more balanced team, and they outmatch the Cowboys at a lot of positions, even though the Cowboys have some great players. So, but I just think at the end of the day, with kind of lack of experience, coaching is definitely a disadvantage for the Cowboys in this game. The Packers just kind of have the one up over all of them. So as long as the defense is kicking, which I'm predicting it will this postseason, the Packers are going to win this game and make their trip back to the Super Bowl. So who wins this Super Bowl? We got the Chiefs and the Packers. Well, we're going to have to wait to see until after my award predictions, like in real life. So at MVP, I got Aaron Rodgers. A lot of people are saying Tom Brady right now, but it's just a little ridiculous to me. He by far threw the most passes in the NFL this year, so I would expect him to have the most stats. I mean, I don't know how primitive we are going back to the whole idea of just because he has more stats, he's better. But when you have the amount of passes that he does, yeah, you're probably going to have a lot better stats. But at the same time, Rodgers has a much better touchdown to interception ratio. They're the number one seed. The Buccaneers aren't. And if you really think about it in terms of actual MVP, most valuable player, if you took away Tom Brady and you took away Aaron Rodgers from their teams, I think it's pretty obvious to me that the Packers are a much worse team because, yeah, they have a lot of great players, but the Buccaneers are arguably the most complete team in the NFL. Tom Brady, I mean, he was 12th or 13th in average yards per attempt. He dinks and dunks. He's got great players around him. Rodgers doesn't dink and dunk. Yeah, he's got a few great players around him, but especially on offense, he's got Bakhtiari, Adams, and just he doesn't have the same weapons. Sure, Brady's offensive line has been hurt at times. He's not always had his full set of receivers. But the point is that Brady's offense, it's just better. He has more to work with. Even if Mike Evans is out, he would have Godwin or Brown. When Brown was out, he had Mike Evans or Godwin. It was always some combination. And we'll see, because I don't even predict him to get back to the championship because he doesn't have, Godwin. He doesn't have Brown. He has a hurt Mike Evans. So, I got Rodgers winning it just because he's been the more efficient, better quarterback, and it's led to more wins. The same amount of wins, but it doesn't matter. They're the number one seed. So for me, I think Rodgers should be winning it. He's been the MVP this year, with Joe Burrow coming in third because Joe Burrow has been elite this year, especially those last 4 or 5 games. He was truly on another level. I mean, if you were basing MVP based off the second half of the season, it'd be a really tight race between Rodgers and Burrow. But I might honestly even take Burrow in that situation. Either way, though, full regular season MVP pretty clearly to me has been Aaron Rodgers. Offensive Player of the Year, I'm going to go Jonathan Taylor. Cooper Kupp had a fantastic year. I get it. But at the same time, the only reason that the Colts were in playoff contention was because of Jonathan Taylor. If they could have pulled off that win in Jacksonville, they would be in the playoffs right now. Jonathan Taylor went off 1,800 yards, 20 touchdowns, 5 yards per attempt, 106.5 yards per game. He was just simply on another level, and he was in his own class of running backs this year. The only running back that would have outdone him would have been Derrick Henry, who probably would have ended up winning the award at the end of the day. But Jonathan Taylor really did have a fantastic year this year. And again, he's the only reason why they were really in playoff contention. They started off really poorly, and they didn't start winning games until Jonathan Taylor started playing like the way he did this year. And Carson Wentz also didn't look good until Jonathan Taylor started playing. I was saying that, Carson Wentz still made a lot of dumb mistakes. He still didn't look like that good of a quarterback. And once Jonathan Taylor got going, yeah, he started playing better because they were scared to defend the pass. And so people were trying to say that Carson Wentz looks like this good quarterback. And, now that he's not looking so good, people are all of a sudden off the Carson Wentz train. But either way, Jonathan Taylor simply was just that great. Like Cooper Kupp, he's still my number 2, right? He was still fantastic this year, nearly had the best receiving season of all time. I get that. At the same time, he had Stafford throwing to him. The Rams had one of the best offensive lines. He's not the only weapon on that offense. So it's just, there's a lot of other stuff that just, it's close, but I am going to give it to Taylor. And my number 3 is also going to be Trent Williams, though. They don't give awards to offensive linemen. If there was ever a year that you could have given it to one, though, it would be this year because Trent Williams was simply in his own class. Trent Williams was arguably the best player in football this year. So for me, that's enough to give him at least a 3rd place vote. He's not going to win it. He shouldn't win it, but he's been that good this year to at least be in the conversation. Moving on to Defensive Player of the Year, we have TJ Watt, and I can understand the arguments for Donald and Parsons, right? Donald is always consistently one of the best. Parsons had an insane rookie year. But at the end of the day, when you tie the all-time sack record, and really he should have the record. I mean, that strip sack should have counted as a sack, because it's called a strip sack. Either way, when you tie the record for the most sacks ever in a single season, I mean, think of that. He averaged more than 1 sack a game. That's really crazy to think about, 5 forced fumbles as well. TJ Watt was just simply unstoppable this year. For a while, I had Myles Garrett here, but at the end of the year, TJ Watt just started going off. Just game after game was getting so many sacks, was making such a huge impact that, to me, he made the most impact out of any defensive player this year. And he really is the reason why the Steelers are in the playoffs. Like, yeah, their defense is pretty good. Their offense is capable enough, but they would not be in the playoffs without TJ Watt. So for me, he deserves Defensive Player of the Year. My Offensive Rookie of the Year is going to be Ja'Marr Chase. He had a rookie record for touchdowns and yards in the season, at least recently, because technically the record was set by some guy in like 1960 or something like that. But he's had the best rookie receiving season in recent history. 81 receptions, 18 yards per catch, 85 yards a game, 63 catch percentage, which maybe you might say is a little low, but it's actually higher than like Devontae Adams' rookie catch percentage, so really not that low. Ja'Marr Chase was just great this year. He was the pretty obvious offensive rookie year at the start of the year. Towards the middle, people started saying Mac Jones is great. Then once Mac Jones cooled off, Ja'Marr Chase went off again and had just such a fantastic season. He's pretty clearly the runaway guy at this point, so there's not really an argument. Number 2, I have Creed Humphrey, though. I feel like he's got to be in this conversation. Again, rookies don't get rewards, but if there was ever a year to give it to one, it would be this year because Creed Humphrey was the best center in football as a rookie. It just makes you wonder, could this guy be even better as he gets along? That's just scary to think of. So he shouldn't win. He's not going to win. He just simply didn't make as much of an impact as Ja'Marr Chase because he's a center. But he's in the conversation because he was literally as good as you can possibly be, maybe even better as a center, rookie center. So he's got to be in the conversation. And then number 3, we have Jalen Waddle. he had a great season. I'm pretty sure he broke the record for rookie receptions. But beyond that, I mean, that Dolphins offense just simply does not. It just simply doesn't function without Jalen Waddle. Tua, that's the only guy he could throw to, besides occasionally Mike Gesicki, who is one of the streakiest receivers in the NFL. Tight ends, whatever. Waddle, yeah, he got a lot of screen passes, got a lot of RPOs, but it's because he's really good at it. He's great after the catch. He definitely deserves to be in this conversation, but the runaway is still going to be Ja'Marr Chase for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Moving on to Defensive Rookie of the Year, it's also a pretty easy runaway with Micah Parsons. He's listed at linebacker, so I just always call him a linebacker, but he was incredible, whether he was playing linebacker or edge this year. I mean, he had 13 sacks, which is a team rookie record, ties a team rookie record for the Cowboys. He just had incredible stats outside of that: 84 tackles, 3 forced fumbles, 20 tackles for loss, 30 quarterback hits. I mean, he was really good at the start of the season when he was playing linebacker, and then when DeMarcus Lawrence went out and he moved down to edge, he was legitimately probably the best rookie edge rusher we've seen in the last decade or so. I mean, maybe since like Von Miller's rookie season. He was truly that good. And so when you have a player that's just so elite at 2 different positions for you as a rookie, and he's definitely someone that really turned an entire defense, arguably an entire team around. Micah Parsons is the runaway Defensive Rookie of the Year. Number 2, by a decent margin, but although he was still great, is going to be Patrick Surtain, who was great for Denver this year. He started out a little slow. I mean, yeah, like he had a couple picks to start off the season, but he started out a little slow. Just did get abused by a few quarterbacks at the start, but as the season went on, he just got more and more locked down. Towards the end of the season, he ended up being, I want to say he was like the second best red zone corner in the NFL, and he was like top 5, I believe. As far as like PFF grades and stuff, I know some people don't like PFF grades, but either way, there's no denying that Patrick Surtain was pretty great as a rookie corner. He did look like a great pick over Justin Fields, which I've been saying anyways, but he did look pretty great for the Broncos this year. Again, wide margin between him and Parsons, but still a great defensive pick. And then also at number 3, we have Jevon Holland. We have Jevon Holland for the Dolphins. 2 great pickups for the Dolphins because, Jevon Holland, he was my rookie. He was my safety number 1 in this year's class. A lot of people had Javon Merrick, but I had Jevon Holland because this guy was just a really insane player out of Oregon. Dolphins took him 2nd round, and he turned into a great player here in year 1. He's just been so impactful for that Dolphins defense. He's been a big reason why they've been as good as they have been. He's just simply been that good. I honestly thought about putting him over Surtain for number 2. I don't think he's been quite on the level of Surtain just because, safety a little bit less valuable or a lot less valuable than corner. But still, Holland's been about as good as you can be as a rookie safety. So it was a great pickup for the Dolphins. But the runaway pick here is going to be Micah Parsons. At Comeback Player of the Year, I got Joe Burrow. A lot of people have Dak Prescott here, but at the same time, they both had really bad leg injuries last year and then came back and played great this year. Joe Burrow is a MVP candidate. Dak Prescott is not. They both have great receiving rooms, but when it comes to offensive lines, it's not even close that Dak Prescott has by far and away a better offensive line. Dak Prescott also has a better defense, yet Burrow was simply just better this year and only lacking behind a couple wins, despite having what, is still a worse team, but what many thought was going to be like a bottom 5 team. I mean, I know I had the Bengals 3-14, I would have loved to have had him higher, but I just didn't think it was possible. But when you have a player like Joe Burrow who just bounces back from an injury like that and plays the way he did, yeah, Dak's been great. I think Joe Burrow deserves it over him just because he's had less to work with, especially on the offensive line, and he's just been better. So for me, the Comeback Player of the Year is Joe Burrow. Number 3, I do have Robert Quinn just because it was simply a fantastic year for him. He had, the most sacks by any Bears player in a single season ever. despite also being injured and obviously just not being that great of a player recently. But at the end of the day, Joe Burrow's still the comeback player of the year, though. He's just been insane. So I have him as the comeback player. Coach of the year is going to go to Nick Sirianni. So the way I kind of like to do Coach of the year is I like to kind of give it to the coach that surprised me the most. Unless a team goes like, 16-1, 17-0, I think the award really belongs to just the coach that outdid my expectations the most. And for me, that easily goes to Nick Sirianni. I predicted the Eagles at 1-16. And I truly think they would have been at max a 5 or 6 win team without Nick Sirianni. Not only did he just surprise me so much by taking the Eagles to the next level, but he himself, as a coach, a play caller, just overall, just improved so much this year. He didn't call plays at Indianapolis. I was not a fan of the hiring just because I didn't think he'd be able to take this Eagles team, which I already didn't like that much, and take it to the next level. And here they are as a playoff team. So for me, I mean, yeah, like Zach Taylor, he took a team that I thought would go 3-14, and they were elite. They went to the playoffs. Great. Cliff Kingsbury, I said that it was this last year he needed to be great or he was gone, and he was great, right? So he kind of performed my expectations. Zach Taylor, I kind of expected him, maybe. Like, I didn't predict it, but I at least expected him to take some sort of step as far as coaching went. Nick Sirianni, I just simply didn't expect basically anything. I expected one win. He gave me 9 in a playoff spot. So for me, Sirianni impressed me the most out of any coach this year. And so I do got to give him Coach of the Year. But my Super Bowl champion at the end of the day is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. I've picked them to win the Super Bowl every year the last 3 years, and I've been right half the time. And honestly, if the Chiefs had an offensive line last year, there's a decent chance that they even win that one. At the end of the day, the Packers are a great team. I get that. But I just feel like the Packers, I don't know if they'll be able to get over that hump of winning a Super Bowl. I think they'll be able to get to it this year. I don't think they win it. It'd be great. It'd be a great storyline. Rodgers probably retires at that point. The Packers win that one last dance as they go into a rebuild with Jordan Love at the front. I just don't see it happening. To me, the Chiefs are just more seasoned when it comes to the Super Bowl. I mean, obviously, they've been there the last 2 years, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to win. But if you look at the two teams, they're very, very, very talented. It's just that the Packers have a really big issue with choking in the playoffs. And I don't predict it to come in the championship this year. I think it comes in the Super Bowl because it just seems like there's always one really bad game from the defense. And that game also just happens to be when Rodgers just doesn't play great. It seems like it always correlates. And, maybe if they happen at different times, they're able to pull off a Super Bowl win. I just think it happens in the Super Bowl this year. It'll be a great game. It's gonna be fantastic. Either way, I just think the Chiefs, they're more consistent. I think they're a bit more dominant. Their defense is way more consistent in the playoffs, and even their offense is more consistent in the playoffs. So overall, as long as the Chiefs are healthy, they're more consistent, they're more seasoned, they're arguably a better team. You can say the Packers are the better team, but the factors of them being less consistent and less seasoned, at the end of the day, sure, it's a bland pick maybe. It's the same pick I've made for the last 2 years, I got the Chiefs winning this one. And I think maybe one of the biggest reasons is because when I came into the season, because I think moving forward, I want to give each season like its own name. And moving into the season, I dubbed this 2021 season Mahomes Revenge. And to me, I just don't think you can't have that title unless Mahomes gets his revenge. So I got the Chiefs winning Super Bowl 56 at SoFi Stadium in a thriller. Could certainly be the Packers. Could certainly be any other team. Like, legitimately, I don't think the Steelers do. Like, besides the Steelers, any other team can go and win the Super Bowl this year. I think it's the Chiefs against the Packers. And then moving on, just the draft order, if all this happened, we already know the first 18. Jaguars, Lions, Texans, Jets, Giants, Panthers, Giants from Chicago, Falcons, Broncos, Jets from Seattle, Washington, Vikings, Browns, Ravens, Eagles with back-to-back picks from Miami and Indianapolis, Chargers, Saints, and then if the playoffs happened this way, we'd have Eagles, Steelers, Patriots, Niners, Raiders, Cardinals, Bengals, Bills, Rams, Buccaneers, Titans, Cowboys, Packers, Chiefs. But obviously, I probably should have fixed it up. I don't know why I didn't. Obviously, number 22, Niners would go to the Dolphins. And number 27, Rams would go to the Lions. Speaking of which, where is the... Yeah. So 22 would go to Dolphins and 27 to the Lions. But either way, this would be the draft order. But yeah, so let me know what you guys thought on my predictions down below. I got a mock draft coming out with Ian coming soon, 2022 mock. I got a 2023 mock coming out soon, so that'd be cool. We're going to take a look back at the 2017 draft 5 years later. So if you don't want to miss any of that cool content, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.